I'm gonna take you on a carving process like you've never seen before. This is a one-of-a-kind piece that I've made for a very special friend in Auckland. It was a year-long creative journey, and it was a gifted concept from a very good friend of mine. This carving is nothing like I have ever done before or since done again. The carving itself has so many components and was done over such a long period of time that it really pushed the limits of my creativity. The carving was done for my diploma in Jade and Hardstone carving that I sat in 2015. These monuments were used as concepts to bring the form to life. It's going to take you through a journey of drawings, Play-Doh, cardboard, all the way to the final conception. I was gifted to have an amazing teacher at that time that showed me the ropes of how far I could push myself as a creative, how much I could do with the concept of sacred geometry and the concept of being able to really push oneself. 6 months of thought, 3 months of design, and 3 months to execute the carving. As you can see, a few months in, we managed to get a concept that we could bring into stone. Once I had found the idea, I selected a large piece of Canadian jade that would be perfect for these blades. There were 12 individual blades made, and each of the blades staggered in a sacred geometrical fashion downwards in size. Initially, I thought that the blades would have been the only thing that I made, but you'll see more in the end of the journey. Each of these cuts that I made were really important to maintain the thickness and the strength of the stone and to eliminate any fractures going through the tips in each of the blades themselves. I used this concrete saw to cut through and to open up some areas so I could then cut with the trim saw. The reason I did this was to not use as much stone and to maximize as many as I could in the blanks. I did have to pay for the stone at the end of the day, and I didn't have an unlimited budget, but everything came out of my own pocket, and it was me who decided to do this for my diploma. Out of all the students that were in my diploma, I was the only student to take the highly independent study option. All of the others focused on the production side, but I felt like over the next few years of my life, I would be production carving regardless, so there was no need to practice this. I wanted to push my creativity to the absolute limit. As you can see, this is a modified benched grinder, suited to use water on it, and it can give me the ability to rough these out. With the grain in the stone, it was not so bad pushing it on a 90-degree angle into the grinding wheels, and so it was pretty forgiving to be able to carve with the 80 grit tool to shape these forms. I still had to be really careful to not lose the tips on the carvings and to make sure that I maintained the strength, because once you open fractures in nephrite, they do not close. It's the same concept of splitting wood, but this is happening with stone, and once it happens immediately. You get white fissure fractures that will open up through. So these different tools that I use are to eliminate this happening. This has a concaved large custom burr is to do this, and I also then moved to the sanding and the higher grit tools to ensure that I wouldn't shock the stone. This simultaneously will carve and polish and carve and polish, so I can remove the deep garks out as I go through the carving. It's important that you do not start sanding too early, but sometimes you want to use a higher grit to expose some of the damage that you've done, but it's not a good habit to go backwards and forwards. As these had large surfaces, the angle grinder was a really good addition to this project, as I was able to get the large faces but still start on a convex wheel. A lot of handwork was used as well. I like to go and sit in this forest at this stage of my life and do as much of the sanding as I could. I knew that because of the differing hardnesses in this nephrite, it has bands of white, bands of black, and then bands of green, that I couldn't take it to a very high polish, otherwise it would get a strong lemon peel. So I decided to do a 400 hand finish with diamond paper. The diamond paper achieves no pitting, and it means that the stone itself looks nice in its finished form. As you can see, I did a lot of things in nature at this stage and was very meticulous to make sure that everything was finished the way that it wanted to be. Perfection was what I needed in this project. That was a screen shot of Rapahoe Beach in the background. Once I became close, I could start to see that the idea was coming to life. The green nephrite showing through is very beautiful, and at this stage I was starting to see the project come. When you create something like this, you never know what it's going to be in the end because it has never been made before. But that's the thing about trusting artists. This is a steel pipe from water. So these are high pressure water pipes that I used. I decided that this would be a good option for the structural integrity of the internal form. 3 different tubes spun on a lathe and sanded. Working with an engineer then to get all the brass fittings made so that they would hold each of the things. As you can see here, this is the final result. With some help from an engineer, commissioned and outsourced, making sure that it was done perfect, and I was sticking to what I was perfect at. This is a part that was actually removed at the end, but was a concept to try and bounce light back down. I did try with this, but this was a bit of a failed result, and I didn't like the end result. It really did look like a frying pan on top. This was another resolution step, so having a ball, popping the ball and putting all of this, I soldered all of these around, as you can see here. Turns out I do know how to solder, sometimes I think that I don't. And then I was able to thread the light through it. This kind of turned out a little bit messy, and again hasn't been used in the final result. There are lamps on top of it now, but again it was just something that I thought worked at the time, but sometimes, you know, you got to move with what people want. My friend, my client, wasn't really too stoked on that part, so we adjusted it anyway. I had to keep going. I got to this point and I thought, I've got a few weeks till I hand it in. I actually really want to finish my concept. This is a core for cutting concrete, and I cubed off this bit, and what you're about to see, the cutting of this core took over 8 hours to go through that nephrite. The nephrite is so extremely hard that I just had to sit there, and I sat there. I made a block and I thought, okay, well, I need to grind off some of the outside. How about I make a housing, come in, core out the inside, and then I actually, you'll see in a second, I bring it back onto the saw and I chop off the edges because I knew that the nephrite was so hard I didn't want to grind that all by hand. So here you can see some time lapse of it cutting through, and I'm able to create what is like a light or a lampshade. The skewed cuts weren't a problem at that time. I just come and fix it all by hand. This process took hours and so much of my back. You have to understand that meticulously standing there, always pushing on that pressure, I actually experienced a lot of back pain from doing this. But for the creativity, for the greater good, had to get it done. Again, the hollowing process just took so long. The nephrite was so hard and I was being so meticulous. Even this sanding step is a little bit over the top because I just come back and I grind again. But if you start to cut into these surfaces prior to them being perfect, what it actually does is creates an imperfect flow. Even though I'm coming back and cutting that again, the small parts that are left are pristine in their flow and their form, and will eliminate any chance of bumps and ripples, because this is, you know, this is not pleasant. You want to make it look like it has been made like this before. It was always this, there was never something else, and essentially the eyes of the gods. I sat in this greenhouse and again meticulously sanded, so much hand rubbing and so much trying to remove every form of tool marks. At this stage I was starting to become really happy with the final result. I apologize for the video quality. This is in 2015, so as you can see the phone was a little bit better. Just bringing in some of the flow, I could see a little kink there, and I wasn't happy with it. So even though I had hand sanded, I wanted to come back, remove the little kink, and as you can see me vibe in there, just rubbing away. And this is the first time we had it together. With my tutor I sat underneath and we both It was a pretty intense moment, I'm not gonna lie to you, like bringing this all together. I am so extremely proud of this project. I'm not gonna lie, it is something that I get to see quite often every time I go to Auckland, and is something that is on display in XEM Studio, which is a tattoo studio in Waitakere. And here, this is the first and test, showing the glow, showing the form, showing that beautiful nephrite coming through. We just dummied up a bit of a black backdrop so we could see it, took some photos, handed it in for the diploma, and I won the Mountain Jade Excellence Award for this piece. I've had other carvers, old school carvers, come and sit and tell me that it is priceless, that the amount of work that I put in is so intense, and it's something that I feel when I look back on this, I actually can't even understand how I created it. Sometimes you make some things and you blow your own mind. So I encourage yourselves as carvers to push yourselves, push your ideas, push your creativity, and you never know what is going to happen. This project was an immense collaboration with the ideas of my friends, the help of others, the help of teachers, just conversations with friends, family, people, the librarian. I remember the librarian at the Polytechnic just helping me so much with some of the measuring and some of the sacred geometry. We all hyper focused on it, and I literally took myself on a journey into the rabbit hole of creation, and I encourage you to do the same. Push yourself as a carver. This video captures the creative process I ventured down over the past year. Endless amounts of conversations with friends, family, and acquaintances. Without this, none of the following experience could have taken place. I cherish art, so thank you for sharing this journey with me. Thank you for watching. I wanted to re-upload this video to take you on the journey with me, to show you what it is like in the brain of a creative and how much you can push yourself. Thank you, Ace, for gifting me with the task that has immensely broadened my skill set and pushed my mind in ways, ideas, and corners I never thought was possible, and led and transformed my creative pathway in a direction opening my eyes through rich experience. Kia ora. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you all. Every like and share is greatly appreciated. On the journey as a YouTube creator, trying to get my art out there, because my art out there is what makes me survive. I cannot think of any other ways to live, and I do love creating. It's just the concept of finding the people like my friend here who trusted me to make the special thing. So if you want something extremely special, send me a message.